Go back to the summer of 1985, and Motorcycle Magazine comes in the mail, and it's got a picture of this bike on the cover. And it says, maybe the best motorcycle you'll never be able to own. Another installment of the history of OSJ. Alright, if you saw in the intro, depending on which one I used, you probably saw a beautiful little red, white, and blue Honda with Freddie Spencer paint job, and that is the bike we find ourselves on right now. This is a 1986 Honda NS400r. It's a 2-year-only motorcycle that Honda made in 85 and 86. Or is it 86, 87? I think it's 85 and 86 they made this bike. Basically, middle of the 80s, all the Japanese manufacturers came out with a little 2-stroke race replica. Yamaha's probably the most popular with the RZ500. And then they also came out with an RZ350 that they brought into the United States. That was an 84 and an 85. That was probably the last street legal 2-stroke real motorcycle brought into the States. The Bimoto V-Do was actually came out after that. That was a pretty limited edition motorcycle, very expensive, didn't do very well. And I believe Kawasaki made the KE100 for many years, but that was a street legal 2-stroke motorcycle, but a little 100cc kind of dirt bike, scooterish thing. And let's see. Suzuki had the RG500. They had the RGV 250s. Those again were 2-strokes, but never brought into the States. Kawasaki had the KR1S, which was a 250 2-stroke twin. Again, European, Canadian model only. And the same thing with this. Honda had their little NS400. They did have a couple of NSR 250s, but this was the biggest bike that Honda came out with in a 2-stroke form. And basically it was to celebrate Freddie Spencer's 1983 World Championship on a RS 500 2-stroke V3. So why Honda didn't make this a 500 and only made it a 400? Not really sure, but certainly is a very unique and rare motorcycle. This particular one is from Canada. It has 8,000 kilometers on it, which I think translates to a little less than 5,000 miles. And this is a very nice, special, unique motorcycle. This particular one I bought from a collector. It's pretty much, when it was delivered to me, it looked like it just came out of the showroom floor. It's in that good a shape. I did not buy this bike to be a daily runner or to put a lot of miles on it. It really was, I had never seen one for sale, so the first time I saw one for sale, I bought it. Why do I own this bike? How did I come about being a fan of 2-strokes, Freddie Spencer, Honda NS series motorcycle? It goes all the way back to probably 1984 or 1985 when I was really getting into motorcycles and racing, and I started watching. Let's see, I can turn that music down. I'm not sure if that's going to come down in there. I started watching motorcycle racing, and there was a video that I kept watching of a specific race in Europe, and it was Freddie Spencer, a young guy from Louisiana, on this NS400 against Kenny Roberts, the American champion. And Freddie was the young gun, and instantly became a Freddie Spencer fan. A lot of it was because of what Kenny Roberts did to me personally. I'll go into a different story. You'll have to look for a different video for that. But Kenny Roberts broke my heart. Turned me into a Freddie Spencer fan. So, I had seen an RZ 350 at the dealership floor, and I think I was riding a little GS 450 at the time, but when I saw that RZ and there was a picture of Kenny Roberts sitting on it, and I was just a young kid, I was 17 years old, that's the bike I wanted. But then when I saw this, and then only to be heartbroken when I read the article and come to find out that the bike was never going to come into the States. It was a European only. I just washed her for the show, and now I got to drive on dirt. I ended up buying my RZ 350, a couple of them. I buy the motorcycles that I love, that I could afford, that was available. But I always had this bike in the back of my mind. And I always said, someday, I will buy one. And in the early 90s, there was a company in California that was importing these, what they call gray market bikes. So occasionally I'd see one in the States. But they were just way too expensive for me. But I always thought, someday I'm going to buy one. And that someday came 3 years ago. It was a rainy, cold winter Sunday morning, and I was on Adventure Rider message board looking at bikes for sale, and this guy in Iowa had this bike, the Suzuki version, the 500, the Yamaha version, the Kawasaki 250. He had a whole collection of motorcycles, including two-strokes. I took the advice of my very good friend, Mike Wolf from American Pickers. He would always say the time to buy something is when you see it. And especially if you've never seen one before. I had never seen a NS400 for sale. And even though it was in Iowa and it wasn't cheap, I had to have it. So I just made the decision, which was kind of scary because I'd never bought something from somebody without seeing it, touching it, riding it, hearing it run. So just took a chance, sent them the money, found a company to ship it to me, and here we are. Turned out the bike has been such a beautiful motorcycle.
Hello, Carlos Checker. Oh, look what we have here. Mr. Freddie Spencer. Here's a sound you don't hear too often on a motorcycle going down the street. I think I'll take the little two-stroke out for a ride today. What do you think of that, Bella? Huh? Yep. Look at that beautiful 1986 Honda. 5,000 miles on this beautiful bike. Looks like it just came out of the factory. She's all mine.
This bike will appreciate value seems to already have. I've already been offered way more money than I paid for it. But my plan is to never sell this bike unless I, for some reason, have to. My kids call this, Gracie nicknamed this bike the Holy Grail, just because I think she had always been hearing about me hearing me. Sorry for my inability to speak correctly. This bike, I talked about this bike for so long. Even my kids knew what a special thing this was for me to be able to find this and own this and ride it. So that's my story. This bike will be with me until the day I die, and I'll pass it on to my children. There are 3 bikes that I said someday I'll own. I've owned 2 of them. This is one of them. The other one is a VF 1000R, which unfortunately I just sold. So there's only one bike left that I saw, touched, sat on, but never owned, that I said someday I'll own. And for those of you that know me well, I'm sure you know exactly what it is. I'll pop up a little picture of it right now. And so listen, I'm currently in the market looking for one of those. So if you know of someone that's selling one that's relatively local to me, I'm not sure I want to buy something from across the country again. I'd like to touch it, smell it, feel it, start it up before I dump my cash into it. And I don't want a project, so it's going to be a good running bike. I realize I'm going to pay more for stuff like that, but that's just the way I roll. No more projects for this guy. So that's it. That's the story of my little 2-stroke Holy Grail. Hope you liked it. Leave me a comment. Tell me what your dream bike is. Did you ever get a chance to buy it? Would you buy it if it popped up? And I'll see you guys in a bit.